at what point does tax become part of the conversation for small businesses?
I mean, not just small businesses, but for everyone. Tax must immediately become part of the conversation because the GRA or the state, whether or not you like it, is a de facto shareholder in your business. Or let me put it, a by force shareholder. And whether or not you make, when you make profits, whether or not you declare dividends, they will share in your profit. And mind you, financial accounting is way different from tax accounting. So whilst you might be making losses in financial accounting, you might be making a profit in tax accounting, and still GRA comes to collect its share. And so depending on how you manage your affairs, if you do not take time, they'll be having a larger chunk of your profits if you are not compliant with the tax law. So it's imperative that every business, no matter how small, once you start, you focus on your taxes and deal with it.
So which laws come to mind when we talk about tax?
The first law you have to look at is the Income Tax Act, 2015 Act 896. If you are registered under VAT, you must look at the Value Added Tax Act 2013, Act 870. These laws also have their regulations. We have the LI 2244 for income tax regulations. We have the LI 2243 for VAT regulations. And then there is also the Revenue Administration Act, which is the act that administers all the taxes. That's where you have the offenses, the penalties, the time for filing your tax and all that. So these are the three main laws you have to look at. There are other laws depending on what you do, the Customs Act, the Excise Tax Act, and what have you.
But these are the three
But
main
the three
laws,
main ones should be there.
the ones you should look out for.
Yeah.
So are there any general tips you can give to companies, small businesses, in how to manage their tax obligations in a way that does not necessarily destroy their cash flow?
Okay. In terms of managing so that your cash flow is not affected, the first point will be your self-estimate assessment or self-assessment estimate. Now, as I explained earlier, this is a situation where you are telling the GRA how much you anticipate you make in the year and how much taxes you're supposed to pay. So, for example, if you anticipate you make 1,000 cedis in a year and your tax liability, just for example, would be around 200 cedis, you could reduce your estimation because you need time value of money. You could reduce your tax estimation to say 150 cedis so that you have extra 50. Because there's the opportunity for you to review your assessment in the course of the year. In the course of the year, you make sure that you review the assessment to what it's supposed to be, or any extra you make, you review it to that effect. Now, the point here to note is not to overly underestimate, because there's a penalty for underestimating tax less than 90% of what you actually owe. And so you have to make sure that if you reduce your estimation along the line, you review it to the right amount.
Reiterate the tips for your tax planning for small business. You mentioned some key points I wanted to highlight again. You said, I think, number one, make sure you're tax compliant. Make sure you're paying.
Yes.
Make sure you're registered. And then you said a few other things.
So the first one, be tax compliant. The second thing, when it comes to filing your self-estimate, you can slightly reduce it so that you have use of your money, and then along the line you review it. And then you can take advantage of the incentives in the Act. So for self-employed peoples especially, there are the personal tax reliefs, dependent spouse, 1,000 cedis. For every child that you are taking to school, you have 600 per child, up to 3 children, all these things. A young entrepreneur can take advantage of the incentive in the Act, which allows you a concessionary period of 5 years. There's also the concessionary period for farming industries and what have you. And then the expenses, deductible expenses. You take advantage of the capital allowance provisions, deduction of repairs and maintenance and what have you. Those are within the confines of the law. But to the extreme, some of us could come in and help you.